Okay. I come to you to admit my mistake potentially. It's a question if I made a mistake or not, but I think I did. Last time I mentioned there was a...
Everybody wants in on this one.
I'm going to admit a mistake I made, so just get that on tape. So I can have it off, I admit it at least. Maybe I think I'll admit it usually. Okay, mistake number one was that I think yesterday, again we can check later on, but I'm pretty sure I said yesterday that the Isha, the Bas Kohen gets Sreifa, which I still stick to. The Rashi says that. But I think if I remember correctly, I said yesterday the man who sticks with the Bas Kohen gets Hereg, in reality gets Chenek. The doc thinks I said it yesterday. Anyways, I'm not sure if I did or not. I don't remember saying it yesterday. I think I definitely did it. But either way, the two punishments that are given over for a Bas Kohen sleeping with another man are different, and the Eitz Omeim does not get. He can get both of them, obviously. He gets the one of the Boel, not the Bas Kohen. He gets Chenek and not Sreifa. That's just point number one. Point number two is a question Daniel asked yesterday, which we did address, but I just want to highlight it further. V'od. What is V'od doing? We have two questions the Gemara asks. Number one is essentially the case of Ein Nasim Zomim. That's question number one. And question number two is what's V'od doing? There were two options. V'od is either a build off the first question, kind of like a second shot at that first question, a second point of it. That's the way Tosfos explains it. But Rashi explains it the other way, which is what we said earlier. It's the second question, and the question really is, this is not the real Keita Edom Nasim Zomim. This is not how that goes down. That's really not Ham and Aleph of how the Edom really becomes Zomim. And this is it's a mistitle. Well, the mistitle was the first question. It should say Ein Edom Nasim Zomim. And then the Keita, which really is the model, is really later on Daf Ham and Aleph. So Rashi says it's two separate questions, and Tosfos says no, it's really one question. If you want to even tell me that it's still called Ein Zomim, is down to yesterday, it's still called Ein Zomim even without the exact punishment. Nevertheless, we know the real Edom Zomim, where it should have said Keita Edom Nasim Zomim, is not Ham and Aleph. Either one, whether you say it's one question or two questions, those are the two parts that I want to just correct. And now we move over to the next part of the Gemara, which is what Daniel asked yesterday. So remind you right now, we had a discussion in the Mishnah. We had two cases that were brought down in the Mishnah. The discussion was of two unique scenarios that are not exactly typical Ein Zomim cases. Usually an Ein Zomim case is something where whatever you try to do, Kasher Zamam La'asot, what you try to do is boomerang back to you. That's the rule of Kasher Zamam. And we have in the Mishnah two scenarios that are not the boomerang punishment. They both get the same level of Makkos, but the case was different. The first case we had was when a person testified as a Kohen about another Kohen, according to Rashi, at least a Kohen about a Kohen, that he is a product of his father who's a Kohen and a Grusha, which makes this person a Ben Grusha or a Ben Chalutza, thus making him a Halal. That was case number one. We don't give the punishment, same punishment. We don't make the Eidim Zomim Chalalim if they're Kohanim. Give them lashes. And the second case was a case of Gullus, where testimony would go that a person killed by accident, and which would mean if they're telling the truth, the guy would get Gullus. We do not say we give reciprocal punishment back to them to give them Gullus as well. We do not say that. Okay. Give this to you, Tzvi? We give this to you? We're now in the Gemara. We know Hanimile.
That's a chiddush.
We know Hanimile. Says the Gemara, where we know these words from? How do we know these words? Meaning, how do we know that they do not get reciprocal punishment? Where is that based off of? So Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, about 6 lines to the bottom of the page in all of our Gemaras. Actually, I think it's 7 in all of our Gemaras, but I got it wrong. Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, the Amar Kra, v'asisim lo, kasher zamam. That's the pasuk. You do to him like he attempted to do. Again, reciprocal punishment, you do to him what he tried to do back to that original guy. That's the one more time. The pasuk says, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi says.
What's the question?
The question is, how do we know? What's the source that you don't give? We'll start first with the Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza. What's the source that you do not give the Edom Zomim the reciprocal punishment of becoming Chalalim themselves? What's the source for that? The Gemara says the pasuk is the source. It says in the pasuk, "Vasisim lo" is about Edom Zomim. Vasisim lo kasher zamam. That's the quote of the pasuk. That's the end of the pasuk.
Which means
do to them.
You do give
what they generally. You give them what they tried to do.
Right.
But the key word is the word lo. You do to him. You do to him the aid. What he Vasisim lo. You do to him what he tried to do to them or to him. Lo v'lo l'zaro. You do to him. The punishment has to be dafka to the Eidim and not to the Eidim's children. Meaning, if you're going to do an Eid Zomim punishment, it has to be a punishment that only affects the child. Now, of course, our hearts, as I'm sure we know, if you punish a parent, the children are in pain over the punishment, but that's a consequence. It's not a punishment to them. However, here, if you would make the parent a halal, that would in turn make the children halalim as well. And that's not allowed. The punishment that's given over has to go to the Eidim and the Eidim alone. Masisim lo. You give the punishment to the Eidim, lo lezaro, not to the Eidim's children. Darren, what's bothering you?
The parent doesn't become a halal.
We're saying now that if the Eidim were found guilty of lying, we would make them a halal, the Eidim. But if they're a halal, what happens to their children? Also halalim. Anyone who's a halal, the child becomes a halal as well. Right? You lose your Kohen status, and the children also lose the Kohen, because the father's no longer Kohen. He becomes a halal, and the children that come later from him become a halal. Therefore, if that's the case, Darren, then I'm punishing not only the parents, meaning the person who are the Eidim, but I'm in turn also punishing their children later on.
Right, because it goes up to the third generation.
Well, the halal could even be beyond that. Even a Kohen is a halal. That's like a mitzvah.
But you're accusing this person that his father, Moshe Cohen, was.
Yes, but the father's still fine. The father's not correct.
He stays a Cohen.
We're not talking here though. We're talking about the Eidim. We're talking about the Eidim. You do to the Eidim what they tried to do. They tried to do what? They tried to make that guy's kid a halal,
Right.
which therefore says, so now you're a halal instead. Well, if you're a halal, what happens to your children? They also become halalim. And the pasuk says, you do to him. Meaning the Eid alone should be punished and not the Eid's children. But because the halal way it works is that it continues generation after generation, that we'll be punishing lo vizaro. But the Torah tells you, asisim lo, you make him a halal and not his children a halal. And therefore it's a technicality. I can't give a halal punishment to an Eid, because that would in turn go to the child of that Eid. And that would not be lo. It would be lo ulazaro. That's not what the Torah is demanding from us. So read that one more time inside. The Torah says, yeah. True. It's true. But the Xeris Akasa of lo ulazaro, it's true. If it would make this guy a halal, in turn all his children would be. And that's the next line the Gemara is about to give right now. The Gemara says here, lo lazaro. Okay. The Gemara says, you know what, like Zvi says, or like Darren was saying before. So let's make a rare exception. Let's make the exception here that based on the pasuk, we're going to limit the halal status just to him. It won't apply over to his children. That's the next line in the Gemara. L'ifsuluhu l'didei, l'ifsuluhu l'zarei. So why don't we then, we'll say technicality. This isn't a classic halal case. It's a specific halal case because of an Eid Zomim. So let's limit it to lo, just to him. We're not going to apply it down to the children as well. Now we therefore answer the question. We've now protected the children. It's only punishment lo, lamed vav, to him and not to his children, and we're clear. But says she, that's very nice, but it's not reciprocal punishment anymore. The Gemara says that won't work. Why? Because ba'inan kasher zamam lasos v'leka. We need to have a case when you try to do something to him and you're lacking that. It's not considered to him. It's considered it's not considered what you're trying to do to them. They tried to make everyone a halal, but what you did was you only made him a halal. So it's not reciprocal punishment. It means that you tried to make, as he said, him, meaning the original guy you testified about, and in turn, all of his children halalim. That's what happens when you become a halal. You lose the status throughout your generations. You lose it.
So we need to have a case.
It's got to be reciprocal punishment, but it's got to stay by him. And therefore we have a catch-22. If you're making someone a halal, that would make him and his descendants a halal. And that would go against lo. You make to him a punishment, not to his children later on. So that goes against that idea. Well, on the other hand, though, we're stuck because, they just make him a halal, and don't make his children halal. But that would not be, as he pointed out, reciprocal punishment.
How do you answer that?
So that's why we're stuck. Because it's true, he's right. That would not be the right punishment to give over to this person. In which case, catch-22. I can't make his children halalim because that would be lo ulazaro. I can't make only him a punishment because that's not kasher zamam. What do? I shrug my shoulders and I say, you can't do it. What do we do instead? Lashes. That becomes our default punishment when I cannot properly perform the mitzvah of kasher zamam to its fullest extent. We're stuck. Lashes, yeah.
Okay, so for clarification, if you turn him into a halal, his children are going to be affected.
That's what happens to the halal.
Which is what Sugi said, which is what he was trying to do to the other guy.
Right. Because then by doing that, you're violating a pasuk that says lo. Let's see some lo. And we say, what does lo mean? It means him, but not his children.
Even though that's what he was trying to do to the other guy.
Right. So the Torah tells you can't do that. That's what he was trying to do to the other guy. So catch-22, we become in a technicality, and you give lashes instead of anything else. That's the Gemara's opinion in the end. Answers the question, that was everything's fine. Now,
we don't know where lashes come from.
what's that?
We don't know where lashes.
We don't know why it would be lashes in the end. That's what you're asking, right?
We have a zillion other.
Right, so the Gemara later on is going to discuss that base where why lashes. The Gemara now says, you know what? That's shot number one as to why the case of the halal of the ben grusha ben chalutzo could get lashes. Bar pada is a new pshat. Bar pada omer kal v'chomer. This idea of here that a kal v'chomer could be a better option maybe than a pasuk. We assume that we don't need a pasuk. If it's a kal v'chomer, we can use logic. That would also explain it. It's not a pasuk needed. It's logical as to why you do not make the halal, the aid a halal. What's the kal v'chomer? Yeah?
Just Leilu Nishmat Shimon's mother.
Yeah, this is Leilu Nishmat. Just let me again apologize. The name. Where was I? There. I can pronounce. The name is Shayna Reba bas Shmuel. Shayna Reba bas Shmuel.
And from soldiers,
of course. Fine. It says Bar Pada, I don't need a pasuk, it's basic logic. What's the logic?
What is basic logic?
The idea that you do not give a halal status to the Edom Zomim, and you give lashes instead, but not really lashes, it's more about not becoming a halal to the Edom. It's logic, it's kal v'chomer. What's the kal v'chomer? Umaha mechalel, Edom mischalel. This is over here what Daniel was saying earlier. The mechalel, meaning, put out the case we have right now in front of us. Let's say you actually have a case of a guy who commits a crime, marries a grusha. He's called a mechalel. He creates a halal. His children become chalalim. If the halal, the mechalel, the guy who commits the crime in the first place, himself is not mischalel, meaning his children are chalalim, but he himself does not lose his status. He's still a Kohen. You may not want to give him an aliyah. It's your choice. What's that? He could. He could. He's a full-on Kohen. Again, we may want to give him a knas. We might want to punish him. We'll punish him. But Ikra Din, he did something wrong, but his Kohen status is still in play. He does not lose his status. Now we may penalize him for it. But at the end of the day, he's a Kohen through and through. He's not a halal. He's a Kohen. So if we say this guy over here is a Kohen and he's not a halal, we don't give him that status. So even though he made someone a halal, he himself was not a halal. If that's the case, Habala Chalil, the Edom, who tried to make this innocent young man a halal and did not succeed. They were busted. The Lo Chilel, they never carried it out because they were busted in advance. Eino Din Shlo Yischalel. Is it not logical that they should not become chalalim themselves? Meaning, if person A committed a very serious crime, a crime in the world of halal, but they themselves do not become chalalim through that crime. They do not. Which is the guy who committed the crime and slept with a grusha. He married a grusha. He made a halal, which is his child, but he himself is still in the clear of the status called a halal. But one of the rules of Edom Zomim, we'll see later on, Eid Zomim attempts but doesn't succeed. That's the rule. What you tried, kasher zamam lasos, what you tried to do, but you were not successful in doing it. Which means that the Kohen himself who married a grusha was successful in creating a halal. He did it. But himself does not become a halal in turn. Then kal v'chomer, the Edom who merely attempted to and failed, then of course the guy should not become a halal. They're less criminal than the guy who committed the crime. And the guy who committed the crime wasn't a halal, so why should they become a halal? Kal v'chomer.
But I mentioned this before, and you said no, we're talking about the younger generation, not the higher generation.
Well, that was the prior point. That was the original statement we made. That was the case of the Gemara's pasuk originally from Shmuel ben Levi. But Bar Pada says, nice, but forget that. Let's look at the original generation, and let's understand from using that as a model.
Just like Mr. Cohen Sr. stays a Cohen.
Right? Even though he
married a divorcee.
And by doing so created a halal with
his child. He still stays a Cohen. Then this Cohen false witness who failed because he got caught, how could he get a worse punishment than Mr. Cohen Sr.?
Who succeeded in making a halal. Exactly.
Correct.
Exactly. Sounds very logical.
If they were doing it to a lady, then it wouldn't be like that.
What's that?
We said that a lady is mitzhalal, right?
A lady. Say again. What do you mean?
This is.
Abbas. What do you mean? In which case?
We said that if a lady has relations with a lady. Right? That was just with Kohen and Kohanis.
That was regarding the punishment they get for being guilty of the crime. If they committed the crime, the punishment a Bas Kohen gets is Sreifa.
No. In Sota.
Toto. Sorry, okay, one more time.
What's the difference between a Kohen and a Kohanis?
Yeah.
So a Kohen is not Mischalo, but a Kohanis is.
Well, right. If she slept with someone she shouldn't sleep with, then she in the end becomes a halala, whatever that would mean.
Right.
Correct, that's true.
Right, so here if they're...
They would testify about a Bas Kohen.
Right.
And say that she committed a crime that would now make her a halala.
Right.
She couldn't marry a Kohen from this point forward. So what we say about them? Again, she was never, halal means she doesn't lose her status, she just can't marry a Kohen. So what does it mean for them? They can't marry a male Kohen either, okay? They can't marry a male Kohen, it's true. They shouldn't do it before either.
Okay.
Even nowadays they shouldn't do it. No?
I'm not saying anything. Especially when recording everything we're saying.
When it comes to Bas Cohen and a man, I'm talking about a Bas Cohen
Who had an affair.
an Ish Ish,
Right.
who's also a Bas
Right.
Cohen.
Okay. Sounds good. Sounds like good call, but the Gemara is going to reject it right away. Says the Gemara, nice, but Maskif La Ravina. Ravina asked a question about Pada. And he says, maybe you were logically sound, but in Cain, if your logic is correct, Vital the Torah's Eidim Zoman. You've now completely nullified the entire content of what the Eid Zomim is all about. We don't have Eid Zomim using your content. Now he uses an example to show this point. This is a big Makkos in Rashi, knows what he means. We'll use Rashi right now, but I'll tell you what it says afterwards. Uma Sokel Inu Niskal, according to your logic, a Sokel, which means, now again, I'm using Rashi's explanation, someone who's stoned, himself is not stoned. Says Rashi, what that means is if you have Eidim, you're trying to make someone guilty of a punishment of skila. Eidim come along and say, you violated Shabbos. And if they were listened to, the guy who violated Shabbos will get skila. And they were listened to. And in the end, they stoned the guy. I mean, the guy was stoned in the end. And then we say, act like, oh my gosh, they couldn't know, they were with us at that point in time. But it's too late. The damage is done. What's the halacha by them? What happens to them?
Too late.
Nothing. Eidu niskal. Uma sokel eidu niskal. If the guy succeeded in doing the punishment, him giving someone skila, he himself would not be given skila. Well, the logic should dictate. Habal niskal below sakal. The Eidim who merely tried to make someone chayav skila and were busted in advance themselves. What's the case? Eino din is not a kal v'chomer shelo yisakel. They shouldn't get skila. But that's what the Eidim Zomim is all about. That is Eidim Zomim. That's classic Eidim Zomim. Whatever you try to do happens back to you. But if you take the logic that Bar Pada suggested earlier and you apply it to a regular Eidim Zomim case, you would now exempt the Eidim Zomim from receiving reciprocal punishment, which becomes a difficulty.
Can you just go over the case?
Yeah, the case is as follows.
You have a whiteboard somewhere?
I do. It's
Yes,
actually
in a previous show.
we'll get it. I'll bring it back here. That's the one memory we have left. I don't want to take it away. The one memory we have left. But the case is as follows. One more time. Two Eidim come along and say someone violated Shabbos, and the testimony was strong. The Beis Din tried them. They found them to be telling the truth. They killed the person based on the testimony. Those are called a sokel. According to Rashi, that's a sokel. And once we realize we made a terrible mistake and they really were lying about it, you can't kill him. Einu niskal. Uma sokel, the Eidim that succeeded in stoning the guy. Einu niskal, they themselves are not stoned. Habal niskal, the ones who tried, same case, but instead of carrying it out, the din was that the guy should be stoned. Before you stone the guy, these two Eidim were busted, protected from actually killing the guy that they're trying to kill. Less of a crime, seemingly. Less of a crime. They didn't carry it out. And what's the halacha? According to our logic, you shouldn't kill him either. But that is the classic Eidim Zomim case. And we know we do kill them in the end. So based upon that, if you take Bar Pada's logic, every single Eidim Zomim case would be out. You wouldn't do Eidim Zomim anymore if that was the case. And therefore, says the Gemara, Ela b'chavarta kidishanina meikara. Rather, b'chavarta, it's clear, as we taught originally, kidishanina as we taught from the onset, meaning Rishua ben Levi is the accurate way of understanding this din, and not Bar Pada. That's all Rashi's pshat. I don't want to confuse you, but I will for a quick second.
How long have you shooting Navy?
Yeah, not Bar Pada.
And he said he was the pasuk?
We don't kill them because we already.
What happened to them?
Yeah, they go to jail.
So we gave him lashes. We'll see later on. The Gemara said, for false witnesses, you give them lashes. Now, is this considered false witnesses? It's a good question. It's a question. Why don't we kill them? Why don't we punish them? So you could argue and say a punishment for them is not even enough at that point in time. There's 3 or 4 different opinions as to why, if you succeeded in carrying it out, it doesn't happen back to you. There's 3 or 4 different opinions. So just to throw out a few opinions right now. Some of them say, if HaKadosh Baruch Hu allowed you to use Beis Din and succeed in your process, that means the guy who was on trial, Hashem wanted to be caught. They only caught you right afterwards. It must be Hashem. That person was a Russia, and Hashem wanted that person to be caught. So it's like you attempted murder, or you succeeded in murder against a bad guy. But if you were caught, it means that you were trying to kill someone Hashem wanted to protect. So it's a much more serious of a crime that you went after a tzaddik. So therefore, we're going to give you a worse punishment when you didn't make it through, because Hashem let that other one happen. So you were shame on you. You lied still. But the crime you tried to commit was very different than the one that you actually committed, because that guy Hashem let go. That's option number 1. Option number 2 is that the person when you go through in this world, we know already from just life, that part of Beis Din punishments is that you are forgiven for those actions. When you Beis Din punishes, we know the Rabbah Milch Sugar brings down that what's mechaper, and we'll see the minute kapara in a minute in the Gemara. What's mechaper? Part of the kapara is the punishment that you get. Part of the punishment that you get is it becomes a kapara for you. This guy is so bad. You actually succeeded using Beis Din, the court system that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created to create in the world a level of sanity, and you use it to create insanity. It's not even death should not spare you from what's waiting for you in Shemayim. I'm not going to give you death. You deserve worse than death even. So we spare you from this world punishment, but you just wait for it. You wait for it. Something big's coming your way later on. Shot number 2. If you didn't jump that, those are the 2 main ones that I've heard. Yeah. Do these svaras go against which one? The one I just told you? The 2 answers? The Maskefla, Ravina's Kasha?
The undoing of the Kavachomer. If you say, wait a second, there's a svara why the people who are not able to do the skila don't die, and the ones who try do die. There's a svara for that. Therefore, it's not an undoing of the Kavachomer.
So I'm asking you a question. Obviously, I'm giving some nice pshatim. I'm giving, according to some Rishonim, some nice pshatim. But that's the case, and that the Kal V'chomer is out. In which case, that's why it's not Kal V'chomer. Not because you ruled it in Zomim. It's because there's a reason why that's not what happens in the end. Maybe. I mean, it requires us to get into the machshava a little more as opposed to the actual ikr din. If I take the machshavas that I'm giving over, then you're right. Using the thought process behind it, you can argue that it's not Kal V'chomer. But as far as the din, otherwise every single Kal V'chomer you probably could like get out of it for some reason or another. By taking, well, maybe you could explain that the reason behind that din is, but it's hard to do the reasons. Once you have that, every Kal V'chomer could probably be questioned.
Did you answer Svi's question?
I think so.
What is the halacha? You just gave 2 opinions, but what actually is the halacha?
Which one? I'm sorry.
If in this case the false witnesses weren't caught in time, so 2 innocent people got killed.
Yeah.
What actually is the halachic?
What happens to the alien? If you not get killed, they probably get lashes for being liars. Nothing more than that. Nothing more.
They get the 40 lashes, 30 lashes.
I assume so. Well, the Gemara later on will talk about people who lie get lashes. So I assume that they're considered liars and they get lashes.
Right.
Well, maybe it could be biblical lashes. Could be the pasuk has a pasuk. The pasuk we quote the Gemara for these lashes.
If they weren't killed, if the people he was accusing were not ever killed, they weren't so killed. He got it before he died. They got them before they killed the
person on trial.
Then you do kill the
yes. Just a few more lines and we stop. Stop in the next 5 minutes. Says the Gemara. That was for one case of the Mishnah. No, 5 minutes, that's what we said. The case of the Mishnah is as follows. The second case we had was the case of Gullus. What was the story in that case? So we know also the story we said was you don't give the guy the same punishment, but we can't use the pasuk. The pasuk was not about a halal. That was a halal issue. But here it's a different story altogether. We know immediately. How do we know that you can't give someone Gullus if they testify about someone that he killed by accident? So Amar Rish Lakish, the Amar Kra, similar idea. Xeris Akasav, Hu Yanus Elachas Harim. It says the guy who killed by accident, has to run away to one of the cities. So the Gemara, Hu Dafka, Lo Zomin. Like we had before, Lo Zaro, Hu Lo Zomin. What's that? Yanus is to run. So Dafka, he runs away to the Ir Miklat. He does, but not someone who tried to make someone chayiv and didn't succeed. They don't. Who is a miyut? Specifically, the guy himself who committed the who would have killed by accident, but not someone who accused him. So, like we have lo zaro is a word in the pasuk that's excluding this application to Edom Zoman. That was Reish Lakish, who was like Rabbi ben Levi quoting a pasuk. Rabbi Yochanan is like Bar Pada now. He says, no, forget the pasuk. I have a kal v'chomer. Rabbi Yochanan Omer kal v'chomer. This was back to the point we said before in Tzvi's question about kapara. Umahu she'asa ma'aseh b'mezid eino gola kama. He, meaning the guy who killed by accident. Back to Darren's point, the original guy. The guy who killed by accident. He did a ma'aseh. He did not do. Sorry, I'm wrong. A guy who killed on purpose. But it says Rashi, for some reason you couldn't try him. You couldn't kill him. There were no Eidim, whatever the case was. There was no Asra. You couldn't kill the guy. But someone who committed a crime b'mezid, who killed b'mezid, but you could not kill that guy for a technicality. The rule here is Eino Gola. You do not give that guy ghosts. He committed a crime, he killed someone. Hain, these Eidim, Shalo Asu Ma'aseh, Kama, b'mezid, Kama, means they didn't commit a crime b'mezid, but they did do something. They didn't do a ma'aseh b'mezid. Well, they did speak b'mezid, says Rashi. They didn't do it ma'aseh. Again, this man who committed a crime and killed someone b'mezid, but didn't have testimony against him, but he committed the crime. He didn't warn him in advance, but he committed a crime. He does not get ghosts. Either he doesn't get killed, he doesn't get ghosts. Either he gets killed or not ghosts. But he doesn't get ghosts no matter what. So they, who did less than this person did, meaning they who didn't do a ma'aseh, because they spoke only, even if it was b'mezid, that's how Rashi reads his words. It's a little hard to read, but again, hein shelo asu ma'aseh b'mezid. They didn't do ma'aseh. They only did dibur, even though it was b'mezid. Eino din shlo yiglu. Is it not a kal v'chomer? It's not a galus. Meaning, here's the following case: a guy kills someone on purpose, and he was never warned before he did it. He wasn't warned at all, so you can't kill him anymore. So you maybe say to yourself, you know what? Throw him into galus. Give him galus. We don't do that. We don't do that. Even if you go and kill the guy, there's no point in time when someone does ma'aseh b'mezid that gets galus. Doesn't work that way. Galus is for showing dafka. So these guys who didn't even do a ma'aseh, means less than the other guy did. It was also mezid, like they did mezid, but less of a crime than they did. They did a ma'aseh. These guys just did a dibur, not a ma'aseh. Equal mezid, but if he doesn't get galus ever, even if he was not killed, then surely they shouldn't get galus either. That's a kal v'chomer. We're comparing again a guy who did not get the death penalty for a technicality, let's say.
But it shouldn't be allowed. It's the wrong category. Why are we talking about a murderer who doesn't get found guilty?
Because we're showing you that if I can take an example of someone who's like me in that,
Not like me. That's why it doesn't.
we share in common the mazid part.
He's worse.
We share mazid, and he's on steroids.
He doesn't deserve.
Oh, okay, that's the Gemara's answer. But forget that he doesn't deserve. Right now, we're assuming right now this guy does not get the punishment, and he did more than I did. We both did mazid, but he did a ma'aseh. I didn't do any ma'aseh at all, and he never gets galus, even if he doesn't get killed for some reason. He doesn't get galus, no matter what. So me, poor little old me.
He did a mazid, doesn't go to galus. I did a mazid, but not an action, a mazid. So I definitely shouldn't.
Exactly. Now Darren's point is a great point. He was every minute. Let's see that inside and we're finished. Tomorrow here again. Eino din shlo yiglu. One more time. Umahu she'asu ma'aseh b'mezid eino gola. Hein shlo asu ma'aseh. But they did mazid and not ma'aseh b'mezid. Eino din is not a kal v'chomer shlo yiglu. Gemara says back Darren's point. No, v'hino senis. What you just said actually should give over to us. Your point is why he should get galus. When you compare to the guy who killed and didn't get galus, that logic is actually why our guy should get galus. How? V'hino senis means this itself lends to our argument. It supports our original argument. It doesn't reject it, it supports it. Who she'asa ma'aseh b'mezid lo ligli? Why? He who does the ma'aseh b'mezid, who killed on purpose but for some reason couldn't be killed, doesn't get galus. Why? In order that the death penalty he's given should not be a kapara, meaning we don't give him the death penalty to not give him kapara. I want him to be stuck with his crime forever. He dies with his crime still on his record. But hey, these Edom Zoman, shlo asu ma'aseh b'mezid, they did do a ma'aseh, but they did it b'mezid. It wasn't through ma'aseh; it was through dibur only. So Nabi Liglu, Dafka, they also should get Golos. Meaning, the fact that he doesn't get Golos out killed on purpose, what do with me? He doesn't get Golos because he doesn't get a Kapara. But we didn't do a big of a crime. So maybe, Nabi Liglu, we should also let them get Golos. We should let them get Golos. Kihechi, in order to have a Kapara. Because they should get a kapara. This guy gets no kapara because what he did was terrible, and it's not enough to give him goals. But they didn't do as bad of a crime. There's room to suggest that the fact that he doesn't get goals doesn't mean they shouldn't get goals. Maybe they should get goals, really. And therefore, that's a rejection of the Kal V'chomer. Rather, it's clear Rish Lakish is probably the better answer, which is who? Hu Yanushama, who, he, but not the Edu Zomim. Stop over here.
And that's why he gets lashes.
That's why he gets lashes and not goals, exactly.
Whenever some rabbi comes out and says lo velo zaro or who velo something or other, that goes against kasher.